my name is Vincent, and today I wanted to talk about my first experience with film photography. I'm still really young at 18 years old, so I actually didn't grow up with analog cameras as my everyday shooting experience. Growing up in the digital age, where all of your photos and videos are stored in an SD card or your phone storage, you definitely take for granted just how easy it is to capture life's biggest moments, or just how easy it is nowadays to take pictures in general. But moving along, I actually wanted to shoot this video in 3 different parts. So the first part is actually me going to be talking about the equipment that I used, and then the second part is going to be talking about the general experience during my first roll. Then lastly, I'm actually going to be talking about why I'm going to continue shooting film for the foreseeable future. And I just want all of you guys to remember that this is from a beginner's perspective. So definitely take everything I say with a grain of salt. Alright, so firstly, what did I shoot my first roll with? So I actually shot my first roll with the Pentax K1000, a fully manual, fully mechanical film camera with an almost cult-like following. So I actually picked this up on the Facebook Marketplace for $40, and I was actually really lucky that it barely had any problems. While there is definitely some fungus on the lens, I don't know if you guys will be able to see that, but the lens is definitely not in the best condition. But I think I actually kind of like the fact that it has some imperfections. I don't know if that's like a hippie thing for me to say, but I don't know. I'm happy with the slight imperfections I saw in the photos and all the little dusts and the little lines from the fungus. I think it just adds to the overall character of the image. But there were definitely some problems with the camera that made shooting a little harder than it should have been. So first of all, the camera was actually incredibly dirty when I first got it, so I actually had to scrub it down. I used some disinfectant wipes, a toothbrush, and I just tried to get as much of the dust off as possible so that at least when I held the camera, it didn't feel disgusting at all, and it actually, it felt good to hold in the hand. I didn't want to be shooting with someone else's dirt and grime, so I figured I'd give it a pretty thorough cleaning before I actually started using it. Another problem I actually had with the camera is the fact that the mirror would actually lock up in certain shutter speeds. And the way I actually ended up fixing that was by taking off the bottom cover right here and putting some WD-40 on the gear that controls whenever the mirror goes up and down whenever you press the shutter. And then one of the most annoying problems that I actually had with the camera was the fact that the ASA knob would actually not lift up, meaning I could not change the ASA that I was shooting at. So if I was going to shoot on a film that had an ISO of 200, 400, 800, 1600, I actually would not have been able to change that. And while you can definitely still shoot with a camera without changing the ASA knobs by using the Sunny 16 rule, which I will talk about more later, it was definitely annoying because I have never actually shot without a light meter before. Going back to that ASA knob, it actually took me 2 hours to get it fixed because I didn't know that when you are taking this little knob apart, you should definitely remember what you had it set on, or else you're gonna have a really hard time putting it back together because everything has to go in a very specific way. And it was like 2 hours of work, but I think in the end it was definitely worth it because now I can change the ASA knob. I can definitely use the light meter that's in the camera now, which must I say, I actually don't know if it's as accurate as it is because I didn't end up using it for my first roll. But other than those minor problems, definitely with some elbow grease, you can get a pretty decent camera for $40 as long as you look on places that's more than just eBay, Mercari. Do your research so that you know you're not paying an outrageous price for a film camera, especially one with a lot of problems. Give me a second. So now I actually want to talk about the first stock I used to shoot my first roll with. So I decided to go for Kodak Gold 200 because I saw a lot of reviews online talking about how amazing of a film stock it is. And after looking through some photos, I actually ended up liking the warmer colors that the stock gives off. Another major factor was I actually didn't know how expensive film was going to be, so I definitely didn't want to push the budget a little too much, especially if I didn't know at the time if I was going to enjoy it or not. Film nowadays can definitely get pretty expensive, with some of the most popular professional level film stocks costing about $16 per roll. So if you're gonna be looking for some stocks, you should definitely do your research and definitely try out a whole bunch just so you find out which colors you like. And now we're gonna transition over to what my experience was like shooting my first roll of film. So I wanna get this out of the way first. I've never shot a camera that doesn't have its own light meter. When I was shooting with the Pentax K1000, I didn't have a battery in the battery compartment, and I also could not set the ASA knob, which was stuck at 800 ISO. So it definitely made shooting a little harder than I thought it would be. And because of that, shout out to King Japes, I actually learned the Sunny 16 rule and tried using it during my shoot. But it was definitely weird not being able to see if my photo was properly exposed, see if it was framed correctly, and overall if it was a good photo in the first place. But I think that's one of the biggest charms that comes with film photography. It takes you away from machine-like shooting, taking hundreds of photos at a time, and it really gives you the time to think more about your composition and what you want your subject to be. While it is definitely not the most convenient form of shooting, I think that shooting film actually helped boost my creativity by a whole lot. So shooting film actually felt more like an intimate experience. Cranking the winder, hearing that shutter, the mechanical feel, and having to think more about my composition made me feel connected to my camera and my photography. I honestly really don't think I've had an even more enjoyable experience ever before, even on digital. I was never really big on photography in the first place because mainly I focused on video work, but I think film is finally what's gonna make me start to focus more on photography. But all that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be taking photos on my digital camera. While I definitely much more enjoy the experience of shooting film, I think it is definitely more convenient to be shooting on digital, especially for more professional orientated work. But I'm going to be using film to shoot my everyday moments and definitely to capture my memories. And that's exactly why I'm going to continue shooting film. And now I want to talk about why I'm going to be continuing to shoot film in the future. Like I mentioned in the previous part, it feels like a more intimate and connected experience to the camera. Having to crank the winder, having to press that mechanical shutter, changing the shutter speed with the dial. Having that vintage feel definitely just makes me feel more connected to my camera. I really love how the film looks afterwards. It really gives it that dreamy look, like these moments came straight out of your dreams. And for that reason, I will be continuing to shoot film. So now that I'm done talking about my first time shooting film and the general experience of it, I'm gonna be putting up a compilation of all of the photos I ended up taking during my first shoot. And feel free to go down to the comments and comment which one your favorite is. And also if you have some general feedback, if you are more experienced in film photography, I would greatly appreciate it. But enough talking, I hope you guys enjoy the photos. But that wraps up the video. I just want to say thank you guys for taking the time out of your day to actually watch this. And also, if you have any comments on the lighting situation and also what the scene looks like, I would really greatly appreciate that, because I spent some time finicking with, first of all, the last video I did on the Galaxy Buds Pro and trying to figure out how I wanted my lighting situation to be, because I am shooting everything from my room. Also this time, if you haven't noticed, I actually don't have a lavalier mic on because I am currently using a shotgun mic. So if you can, also comment on what the audio sounds like. But other than that, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Vincent, signing off.